Hey everybody, welcome to Take on the Lake with Lake Expo. This is Nathan Bechtold, and today we've got a really cool guest on. I think we always have a really cool guest on, but today we have John Buchanan joining us in the studio. John is, with his wife Sheri, the owner of the Tavern family of restaurants at Lake of the Ozarks. You probably are familiar with those. You've got the Tavern at Trails End, Tavern Smokehouse in Camdenton, and Tavern Trattoria in Lowry. So they opened those up. But John actually is a St. Louis native or St. Louis area native. He's been in the restaurant business for 31 years, and the dude has forgotten more than you and I will ever know about restaurants and food and how to make food awesome. So that really is our theme today. I've gotten to know John since he and Sheri came to the lake a few years ago. And I said, hey, man, why don't you come on the show and let's just talk about how to make food awesome, because I've never had food that at any of the tavern restaurants that wasn't awesome. So this is John Buchanan on the show. John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little about background. I gave a little of background and stuff, but tell us like where you learned I was gonna say like cookery or the culinary arts.
Exactly. Well, it really started with my grandmother growing up. You know, she's always in the kitchen, worked restaurants, catering, that type of thing. So I grew up along her side doing it. And we had a pretty large family, so it was always fun, batching big meals, to feed his family. Mm-hmm. So kind of an inset passion for the arts, if you will.
All right. So yeah, as a kid, basically.
As a kid, yes.
All right. And then you went to culinary school somewhere, right? Or
yes, East Central University.
Okay.
That's actually in Union, Missouri.
Did that. And then from there, where'd you go? Where'd you kind of on-ramp into restaurant business?
So my first real position as a solid cook, I would say, would be St. Albans Country Club.
Where's that?
So that was in St. Albans, Missouri. It's one of the top-rated golf courses.
Oh, okay.
And started there when I was young. I mean, I got that position when I was 21 years old.
Awesome.
So they have a chef title at that young was, pretty cool, but pretty nervous too.
Yeah. Okay. So you did that for...
I did that for several years and then bounced around in the country club world, a little bit.
Yeah.
And then started getting to independents, left independent restaurants and went corporate for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then back to independence.
Yeah. So can you even count how many different restaurants you've been involved with?
How much
over
time?
the years?
How much time?
Right.
I mean, I've opened several. I've actually opened 9 total.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, so there's quite a few different genres of food in there, and that really is kind of what drives a chef. And that's why most chefs really only stay at establishment 2 to 3 years. Because at most places that aren't trendy or current with their foods, you're going to learn the menu, and then it's move on to something else.
Oh.
Because you're going to tap out of your knowledge at that restaurant.
Okay.
Say you've never done Italian, you go to Olive Garden, you're going to have that menu down, in about a year, 2 years, and then you're ready to move on.
You just get bored?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
The true creative chef, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that defines you as I've gotten to know you and things you rant and rave
I dabble
about. And yeah. So you opened 9, so 3 at the lake, so then 6 in the St. Louis area. Did I count that right?
Yeah, so I hope, I was huge in opening a Three Brothers restaurant that was in Labadee. One of my biggest claims to fame was a restaurant called Table 3 that was in Wildwood, and that's actually where I met Sheri at.
Okay.
So, who is now my sister-in-law, is who I opened that with, Beth Williams, who opened that restaurant.
Oh, okay.
And it was a fine dining restaurant, French fusion. So something very, very different for the time.
Interesting.
And we would pack them in. I mean, our seating capacity was huge. So we're burning and turning, 500 covers a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So yeah, you and Sheri, you guys are a dynamic duo. Again, as I've gotten to know you, it's amazing. You're the like chef creative guy, and she's in there like wheeling and dealing with like the suppliers, and I'll walk in to say hi, and she's back there, and she's got somebody that's got the whole like inventory of stuff, and she's like going over it line by line.
She's definitely the financial brains behind the operation.
I love
for
it.
Sure. And we just work really well together. I know my lane, and I'm excellent at my lane, and she's great at hers. And not that I can't run budget, not that I can't run food costs. It's part of being a chef. But as far as paying the bills, taking care of the vendors, that's her strong suit.
Yeah. Does she ever have to get with you in there in the kitchen if somebody calls in sick and like?
Okay. So kind of funny, at Trattoria when we first opened, she actually had eye surgery, right? She had a cataract removed. And she has a patch on her eye. She's not supposed to be in a hot environment, and she can't lift anything. And we actually had our sous chef that couldn't show up. So she was literally on the grill, cooking fillets, cooking salmon, and just slinging hash off the grill while I was over at Trails End, keeping that one under control.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not her strong suit. She's not creative by no means. But can she get down and dirty? Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So you guys tell the story real quick of how it got started at Trails End, because you opened together. You opened some restaurants in St. Louis before you came here, right?
Yes.
I got a little lost on that story.
Oh no, you're fine. So we really started at the lake like everybody else. It started off with a lake house for a reprieve.
Mm-hmm.
We both live busy lives. We are working a restaurant together called the Inns at St. Albans, and it was a huge dynamic of 3 different allocated restaurants. We had a wedding venue, we had a fine dining restaurant, we had a quick casual. So we're running all that and got through COVID with it, and it just got to the point where we need a reprieve. We bought a house here at the lake, 2019, and then I absolutely fell in love with the lake. Started hitting a couple of the restaurants here, and since we're on the west side, there really wasn't a whole lot on the west side as far as fine dining or as far as trendy restaurants. And don't get me wrong, there's great restaurants there, but they're more family style.
Right.
They're kind of your meatloaf, your fried chicken, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
So, but I just kind of seen this need of having a fine dining-ish restaurant at the lake. And that's when we decided to do the Tavern at Trails End.
Okay.
And the place we picked was a long-running dive bar.
Was it
Hurricane Dolly's, yes.
Yeah, okay, right.
Dolly Baker. I mean, what a woman right there.
Man.
So homage to her.
Yeah, and so you guys, I remember you telling me the story of when you first stepped into that place, and it was special, right? I mean, it was true dive bar
It was
vibes.
like a dive bar met Cheers. You know what I mean? So it's like the Good Old Boy Club. It's the same people that come in every day at noon. Mm-hmm. And there's literally, a solo cup of cigarettes sitting on the bar.
Yeah.
You throw a quarter in the cup, you grab a cigarette, you open the door, smoke comes out, everybody turns around and looks at you, but
that's great.
We went there and ate several times, and Dolly would do the best prime rib, and it was such a, competitive price. Mm-hmm. So we frequent there quite a bit and got to know some of the locals, got to know Dolly, and we started our search, for the restaurants. And we looked at several here, that you would probably know. Mm-hmm. And nothing just really had just a kick butt ambience to it. So for me, it's not just about food, but it's actually having a spiritual connection with the building. Mm. So how many places have you been that the food is great, but there's no ambiance?
Dude,
there's no feel. There's no...
The place is such a big part of an experience. Yeah. Place matters.
And how many places you've been that had an amazing ambience, but the food didn't match the ambiance, So it really goes hand in hand. And that's one thing that, Sheri excels at, is being able to, as she says it, seeing the forest through the trees. Mm. So you see this conglomeration of dive bar, Christmas tree hanging upside down,
yes.
Sports memorabilia, super smoky, nicotine ridden.
The tables had the vinyl.
It had the red picnic tablecloth stapled to it, I love that story. So we were eating dinner there one night, and we got done looking at a bunch of restaurants. I said, let's go have a beer. Let's go have a cheap prime rib. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, and she goes, I think I could do something with this place. And it wasn't even for sale at the time. Mm. And then our realtor, Troy Myers, shout out to Troy, called me up, and he's like, dude, I got your spot. I'm like, okay, well, where is it? What is it? And he goes, Hurricane Dolly's. And Sheri's like, no way.
That's funny.
We literally was just talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
And then boom, we did a bunch of work to it. Took a lot to be able to get the smoke smell out of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now it's replaced with garlic and, truffle oil and everything else. But so coming up on 4 years old on it.
The entrance is so great. I mean, the front of the building is perfect. I love how I almost have to stoop to get under that front beam that goes across, because this is an extremely old building.
I mean, the folklore says 1852 is when that place was built.
Like as a French trading post?
So it started off with a trading post and was a brothel. Actually, the name of the brothel is still etched in the logs.
No way.
The Rambling Rose. You can walk around the left side of the building and see it.
I did not know that.
Etched in.
Crazy.
And then, went from that to, used to be people would have potlucks there. Mm-hmm. And then it was actually a kind of funny story. So we named it Tavern at Trails End after the road. All right.
Oh, okay.
Trails End Road is the road that it's on.
yeah.
We're like, dude, let's call it Tavern at Trails End.
Yeah, that's a great name.
Come to find out, years and years and years ago, it was called Trails End Restaurant. The road was named after the restaurant.
Oh, nice.
So
Full circle.
we didn't know that that portion of the history. So it was kind of cool. A lot of people,
cool.
a lot of the locals are like, dude, I think it is so awesome that you brought the name back. I'm like, yeah. We planned that.
Yeah, right.
No,
Not at all. And then, so you guys ran that for a year and some change, or what was it? And then you got into Smokehouse next, right?
Yes. So we were right about a year and a half in, and things were getting stabilized there. You know, we got regular business coming in, profit and loss statements looking great. So we're kind of starting to look, because we knew that we wanted to come down to the lake and open 4 restaurants in 4 years. That was the goal. So right now we're little 3+ into this culinary adventure, and we have 3. So,
all right.
But yeah,
no big
so I had
announcements on the show today.
I'm sorry.
No big announcements on the show today.
No big announcements.
Okay.
No, not yet. I still got at least another
Okay.
year solid to get Trattoria, stabilized and up and going.
Yeah. Okay. So then Smokehouse.
The Smokehouse came along. A very good friend of mine, Mike Jones, had a restaurant there called Smokin' Jones, and he also had another place called The Outpost that he ran, and he was actually the first culinarian I met coming into town.
Dude, Mike Jones is one of a kind.
Oh, dude, he's a local legend.
Yeah.
So we started talking even before Trails End was open. We had met. So I was bouncing ideas off because he's been at the lake. I mean, he's a figure here.
Yep.
So I'd bounce culinary ideas, and he was always super supportive. Like, dude, you're gonna rock this. And then when he let go of the Outpost to open up the Chop House,
right?
He's like, man, this is huge. This is big, and would you be interested in the barbecue? Buying the barbecue from me. I'm like, really was never my intention to have a barbecue restaurant. But I started to put some, some thoughts into it, and it already had a decent following. I had a great following. Like, if I put my twist on this, I could, make it mine.
Yeah.
And we did. So we purchased it, and now Smokehouse is 2 years old and rocking.
Great.
Like, if you see that place during concert season, yeah, you're pressed to get in.
Nice. Great. And then from there you went to Trattoria, but that was an interesting journey a little bit.
That was a very interesting journey. So we were looking for the third. And again, back to the ambiance.
Right.
The things that we were finding, didn't have any ambiance to it. And it was a restaurant called the Bourbon Barrel kind of at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
previously, what most folks here, what I had known it as previously was JJ's.
The iconic.
Yeah, the iconic
JJ Copperpots with Joseph and Jeffrey.
Right.
Talking about it, two more like legends.
Geniuses, yeah.
I mean, what a culinary, duo they were.
Right. But at that point, it was the Bourbon Barrel.
Yes. Yeah. So, they had purchased the Bourbon Barrel, and unfortunately, the owners had some health issues, and, they had to back out, of that business, and they gave me a call. And it took me, about 11 months to, seal that deal. But it got shut down, and now the owners, come and frequent the restaurant, and everybody comes in.
Great.
Matter of fact, Jeffrey was in a couple weeks ago before he opened back up for this season. He's like, man, I just got to get in here and check you out and see what you got going on. People
had to figure that place out for a minute. It took I think there was a learning curve when you and I talked about Trattoria specifically.
Yes.
Because it's Italian, but it is not like Macaroni Grill.
No, it's not. It's not.
That was insulting. Yeah.
And anybody that, one, knows me, or two, has been to my restaurants know that I have a trendy mind.
Yep.
And I don't like doing things like everybody else does. So that was a challenge at Trattoria because people are coming in expecting classic Italian dishes.
Right.
They're expecting
the elephant in the room here. Here we go.
Go ask.
They wanted lasagna, and they
wanted
didn't
lasagna.
find lasagna on
They
the
wanted
menu.
lasagna.
Yeah.
They want their cannellonis. They want their free bread, the free olive oil.
Right.
Kind of more of a Olive Garden type of feel.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Who doesn't love all you can eat breadsticks and all you can eat salad? Right.
Bring
here,
it on.
man. All day long. But I wanted to give the lake something different.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give them a culinary take on Italian. And that's what it is. One of my number-selling pastas on the menu is called Pepper Jack Campanella. And I did this pasta 20 years ago. I was having a creative brain fart, if you will, trying to think, okay, think. Let's do something different. I started going through old specials, old features that I ran in the past, and came across. I'm like, dude, that sold so well. I'm going to bring it in. So you got all this talk of not having lasagna, not having this, not having that, and the number one selling pasta isn't even Italian. It's a pepper jack cream sauce,
Wow.
with prawns and pork belly, and chicken in this beautiful pepper jack cream sauce with the homemade campanella,
Hmm.
and it just blows people away because
Yeah.
it's something that they haven't had.
Right.
So it's like if people will get out of their comfort zone of what they think is, a classic Italian, or this should be on there, or this shouldn't be on there, just give it a chance to be open-minded.
Yeah, it's a truly unique experience going in and looking at a menu and at an Italian place and being like, well, I recognize some of these things, but there's a lot here that
Exactly. I
didn't
literally
know
I have
what
a
to do
translation
with.
sessions
Yeah,
because I kind of split it up. I want to make you wonder, like, what the heck is this?
right.
Like a lot of people that know what tagliatelle is, where it's more of a fettuccine, shaped pasta.
Hmm.
But it also it gives me a chance to engage with the customers.
Yeah.
Because I'm touching tables, I'm asking them, hey, got any questions on that menu? Well, what the heck is this?
Right.
Well, let me tell you what the heck this is.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the favorite ones is the ratatouille. Ratatouille in Italian is radiator. It stands for radiator. Not very sexy when it
No.
comes to a culinary descriptions, but that's the pasta. It's round and it's got little ridges on it, and it looks like the old school oil
Oh,
radiators.
that's funny.
So it's fun to be able to talk to customers and say, hey, this is what this is and what this means and what you can expect.
And you're making all the pasta
Yes, all the pasta is made from scratch daily,
in-house,
in-house,
daily, from scratch.
from scratch.
Pasta.
Semolina, olive oil, water.
And that's not just that's easy to say. Actually, semolina is a little bit hard to say, but
Right.
all of that is easy to say, but it's not easy to do. I mean, it's like there's an art to figuring out ratios and all that stuff.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'll give away a couple of the new menu items coming up, which the new menu should be out probably here in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But we have a bucatini that's on there, which is like a fatter spaghetti that's hollow. So that's a different formula. That's a different pasta recipe than just your traditional recipe. Because of the tube shape, it's a little bit different density.
Mm.
So there's always a little bit of play. And
Right.
it took, from the very beginning to now, is still research and still tweaking and it's still working on things, to get them, as close as perfect as can be.
Right. So when my wife and I went there on a little date night, 5 kids, so it was already going to be special just
Right.
because we got to get away for a minute. You brought out the tiramisu,
Right.
and dude, I texted you later. I was like, what did you do with that tiramisu? Because my wife was angry about it because it was so good. Because she
Right.
had just made tiramisu for she's part of like a supper club, quarterly supper club. A bunch of friends come together and do this thing. And they had, I don't know if they had an Italian theme, what it was, but she had been charged
Right.
with making the tiramisu. And she was fairly proud of it. And I don't even know when she'd ever made tiramisu before.
Right.
So, and she tried yours and was like, all right, I hate mine. This was so good. What did he do?
Well,
So
I know a chef
texted
for
you.
hire,
Yeah.
I mean,
There you go. It's pretty good. So, and then, I don't know, did you want to share the secret to the tiramisu, or are we keeping that on the...
no,
on the-
I literally have no secrets. I'll give you whatever recipe that people
Okay,
ask.
so
And
you
people
texted me
appreciate
back.
that.
I said, what did you do with that tiramisu? And your reply, do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, the reply is that most tiramisus are really, really mushy, and they're bitter because the espresso. A true tiramisu has espresso in it, and I cut my espresso with frangelica.
Yeah.
So you have a nice little sweet, but you get a little bit of coffee overtone. The cream is a little bit of a Madagascar vanilla bean, into the cream. So you have this nice, soft, plush, but yet a little bit of firmness to it.
Right.
And it's a magical piece
It's
of
not,
dessert.
it's not soggy.
No.
Actually.
Holds up really nice.
I actually had to look up what frangelica was.
Right.
And so if frangelica it's a hazelnut liqueur.
It's a hazelnut
basically.
liqueur, yeah.
And that hazelnut that it added to it, I think that was it, honestly. That
Yeah.
was the thing where it's like, there is something really unique happening here. So, and then since you were coming on the podcast, I was like, hey,
Let's talk secrets.
could you bring some of that tiramisu?
Oh yeah,
So, all right, so I'm gonna bust it out right here.
do it.
All right, I hid it under the desk for effect here. This stuff is absolutely phenomenal. It looks very, very wonderful. The presentation here is outstanding, even though it's like a to-go situation wrapped up. So well done on
But
that.
sure, I try to make it look as sexy as possible.
Yeah,
for you.
we got a beautiful little purple flower
yeah,
going on.
little
here
edible
on-
orchids.
Going here on the plate. So I'm taking a bite of this junk.
Do it.
I mean, I said junk. Sorry, it's insulting.
Oh yeah,
But
it's
of
just
this
kidding.
phenomenal creation here. that on the floor. You gonna eat some of your tiramisu?
Yeah,
Come on, dive in.
Why
We're
let you
just hanging out.
dine alone?
Yeah. I got you a spoon and everything. So, all right, tiramisu bite. Grab yours. We'll do a little toast.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Got the nice little cocoa over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little bit of bitterness. The cream is actually mascarpone.
Mm-hmm.
Mascarpone that's whipped. And then I actually do a very, very sweet whipped cream, and then I combine them together. Nice and fluffy. You just get that little, nice little soaked bottom there.
Dude, yeah, like all the textures are right. And it's not crazy sweet either, because that would drive me crazy. Cloying.
And then on the side where the flour's in, this is actually my cannoli cream.
Okay.
That I put inside of the cannolis.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of ripped ricotta with that and mascarpone.
I meant to take a picture of this before
I
eating.
still can. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Let's do. I should take a picture of an empty plate. Whatever.
Right.
That's outstanding. Well, I could just sit here for the next 60 seconds is what it would take me to finish this off. But we'll keep talking. So with you, the elements of that tiramisu were the thing that I talked to you about. Okay, you obviously know how to do stuff with food that people don't automatically think about. Because, some people don't really cook much at all, but it's really become increasingly popular to cook at home.
Well, there are so many
people
reels
love
and so
stuff.
many, the knowledge is limitless nowadays. Back in my day, we were still looking at cookbooks.
Right.
We didn't have the internet. We had encyclopedias. We had the old Escoffier cookbooks and the old French cookbooks. That's how we learned. Like, if you want to learn how to make a demi-glace, there's the book.
Mm-hmm.
There's no tips. There's no somebody say, hey, oh, by the way, when it reaches 160, cut it off.
Right.
That wasn't there. All that is trial by fire, literally.
I always love the old recipes that come down from grandma that will say certain things, or they'll just omit certain things, and you're like, how could you leave that out?
Right.
They knew that you should just do that, right?
Let's take our, let's talk about trattoria real quick, our Sicilian zugu. So that is Sheri's side of the family, third generation, off the boat recipe. And it takes 6 hours to make this sauce.
Wow.
It's on the stove, reducing, and we don't even taste it until it has a 6-inch reduction mark in the stock pot.
Oh, wow.
And then it's finished with a pound of butter.
Oh, perfect.
And mount de beurre is the French term that you mount it with the butter, and it just makes it super rich and sweet and meaty, and yeah.
Oh, that's good. So what? Yeah, okay, no, two things. First, are there food trends right now that drive you crazy? You said you see all these reels.
Oh,
are there things that are happening where you're like, this is the dumbest thing? They think, well, I'll be ready for this is to be over.
Well, let's talk about, the allergies real quick. So, not that celiacs or alpha-gal bothers me, because it's a real condition. And if you really have the condition, that's great. But I'll have people that will come and say, you know what, I'm gluten sensitive, I'm gluten free. And if that's really the truth, then great, I will do whatever I can. But I had somebody do that to me the other day and asked the server for more bread. They wanted the gluten-free pasta, but they asked for more bread. I have zero issues. You're the customer. I will come out to you and I will create a whole 5-course meal for you. I love doing it. I got a lot of people say, Chef, give me something that's not on the menu. And I love doing that. But yeah, so that's one of the trends where man, okay, I get it. If you have dietary restrictions for real,
right,
I do whatever I can. But don't make it harder on the chefs just because you have a dislike for something. Or you have your opinion on something.
Across the whole evening. That's what.
Exactly.
Yeah. But those have certainly, the different food sensitivities that are, like I said, those are very real.
Oh,
obviously.
100%.
It's been interesting how those have changed menus and changed the things that I'm sure, chefs and people who are creating menus kind of go, well, I got to offer something for these type of folks now. And I feel like that's been in the past. I don't know how long it's been. Feels like maybe decade or so.
It feels like it, yeah.
That you see now, menus at so many places are going to have something that are at least saying hey, this is appropriate for people with this allergy and stuff.
See,
so that's interesting.
But funny, and you can take this either way. I don't have it listed on my menus.
Oh, really?
I don't have it listed at Trails, and I don't have it listed at Trattoria.
Mm-hmm.
One main reason, it makes you engage in conversation.
That's great.
You know,
Brilliant.
the customer will say, you know what, I have a gluten-free allergy, but I don't see anything on our menu. Let me be right back. I'll go get the chef. And boom, now I get to shake hands with the customer, and now I get to create a dish for the customer.
That's awesome.
And, you know, I'll sit down and say, you know what, okay, well, you're vegetarian, you can have this and this and this, or we can omit this and add this.
Right.
You know, and so they basically get a, you know, intimate dining experience off of something not being on the menu.
Dude, that's cool too. And again, you do a great job of going through the restaurant, you know, like fairly regularly, whichever one you happen to be at that night.
Right.
And just saying hi to folks. I mean, say hi to us, but we know each other. But,
Right.
You know, but just going around, I've seen you, I've watched you engage with people. Man, people love that. And I know you know this, but
Yes.
in a restaurant experience, they love meeting the person who's like said, yeah, this is my like creation out
Right.
here, right? I think there's just something like we're talking about the atmosphere matters and the building matters, and that part of the experience I think is so cool. And so yeah, you coming out and explaining this is what that pasta thing is, right, at Trattoria or whatever else. Anyways, I've always thought that was a really cool thing. You're not the only person obviously who does that, but I think that's so important.
It is. It's kind of a lost. It's a lost art. Not
Right.
too many people do it.
Right.
You know, there's a couple reasons behind it. One, interaction between the customer, but two, I stand behind my product.
Yeah.
You know, to where a lot of people won't come out of that kitchen or are scared to come out of that kitchen. But not only coming out of the kitchen, I have people that want to tour the kitchen.
Oh wow, nice.
You know, I have people ask, Chef, can I'm like, come on back. And they're like, really? It's in the middle of the rush. I'm like, come on back real quick. We'll show you. I'll show you what we're doing, what the stations are, and what they're producing, and you know where the thought comes from, and the end result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So let's go back to this question. What?
I got one more cooking trend.
Oh, cooking trend. Oh yeah,
One more.
Go.
People, this is to the public, everybody out there.
Okay, PSA. Yep.
There is no such thing as medium rare plus. There's no such thing as medium plus, medium well plus. Medium rare plus is medium.
I've not even heard this.
Yes.
I don't know
So
about
this is very
what people are
frustrating.
They're saying, I want
So it
medium
gives
rare
you-
plus.
Yeah, I'll take a filet medium rare plus. It doesn't exist. So
That's like saying you want to cut something to like 1/128.
you're giving me 2 degrees, 2 degrees
pick
here to
one or
play
the
with.
other.
You know, 5 degrees to play between a medium rare and a medium steak, from 125, you know, to 132. You know, so it's frustrating. That's frustrating.
That's funny.
But it also gives you a room for error on the customer part. Oh, my steak is not cooked properly. I ordered medium rare plus. This is obviously medium rare. Okay, well, it's 3 degrees off of being medium rare and 3 degrees under from being medium. Pick medium, pick rare, medium, medium well, well done.
Don't pick
Those are your
medium well or well
Those
done.
are your steak temperatures, people.
Yeah, they're not supposed to pick medium well or well
Rant
done.
over.
Yeah. That's my rant though. Is if it's well done, it's not well done.
No.
I mean, come on now.
And I'll tell
We're
them.
going medium rare here.
I will tell them. I'm not rude to my customers, but I will tell them. I will say, I ran a yellowfin ahi tuna last week. Beautiful dish. Actually, it was my chef Patrick's dish. He was my chef there. He's like, Chef, I want to run some yellowfin. I said, do it, man. Do your thing. And somebody ordered it. Well done. I went outside. I grabbed the ticket off the rail, went to the table. It's like, I just want to make sure you understand that a well done ahi tuna will be rubbery and will be dry and will have no flavor profile.
You are going
whatsoever.
to ruin this.
And
this,
like I
this
said, I'm not rude
dish.
about it. I said, I highly recommend medium rare. And most of the time, people will take my suggestion because they don't know. Like, oh, okay, well, I just thought, who wants to eat a rare fish? Well, me, it's called sushi.
Yeah.
Sashimi. Yeah,
Yes.
right here. But this person goes, you know what? I just prefer it well done. I'm saying, I'll be happy to cook that for you. Back on the rail, chef, well done. And we do our thing.
Did you see their plate after they finish all their?
They finished it all, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they like rubbery fish.
Chef Patrick did a
whatever.
a orzo pilaf that went with it that went really well, and yeah, I mean they loved it. So
Nice. All right. So to the question,
yes,
how do you make food so awesome? I mean, how do you make food so awesome? But like, how do like you, the people out there in the world, what are like a couple things maybe that people can think about to change it up? I mean, again, we were talking about like adding the frangelica to this or different things, and
Right.
where do you come up with that stuff? I mean, internet, you go steal it from other. I mean,
No,
not steal,
I
but
mean,
like all creativity is stealing, right? It's all like you get inspired by somebody else. You're like, oh,
Exactly.
I should do this. So inspiration, we'll call it.
And
But,
that's
you
the
know, how does
crazy
that
thing
come
about the culinary world. Touching base on that, that's one thing I love this field. You will never ever learn everything there is to know in a culinary field.
Yeah.
You won't. You can train classical. You can probably learn everything classical, but there's so many different twists, different hybrids, different fusions, different, so touching base with that is just knowing what flavors play with each other.
Yeah. How do you
When
learn that though? How do you learn what
just
flavors
by experimenting
play
and
together?
just knowing flavors. It's nothing. I hate to say that it's a gift, or it's your passion, but it kind of is.
Mhm.
So either, it's like I'm not a home decorator at all.
Sure.
But Sheri can do that. She can say this texture goes with this texture, and we need to go more of an orange here, and then a dark tan will go with this, so it is an eye for it.
Yeah.
But for me, not only is it an eye, but it's also a flavor contrast.
Sure.
One thing that people freak out about at Trattoria is that I have this wonderful butternut squash ravioli. All right. So, you just think of flavors, what complement flavors, salty, sweet. You have your classics, sweet, sour, so you have this palette of flavors that hit your tongue at a different spot. So I took my butternut squash and it was really sweet. So I'm like, okay, well, it's almost too sweet. Let's do a fried sage brown butter with it. So a brown butter adds a nutty, kind of an earthy component, to the ravioli. And then I'm thinking, okay, next up, blue cheese. Nobody would think 100 years to add some blue cheese, a blue cheese cream sauce to a ravioli. It doesn't even make sense.
Why did you think of it?
Because of the flavor contrast, because it is earthy and it plays with the sweetness of the butternut squash.
Huh.
So by the time I was done with the dish, it was brown butter, the raviolis, fried sage. Then I went that another step and did a spicy and sweet candied walnuts to add to it. So now you got the mushy bite of the butternut squash ravioli. Then you got a crunch from the walnut, but you got a little bit of spice, a little bit of cayenne in that walnut.
Mm-hmm.
So you get just a hint of spice, and then you hit that earthiness of the blue cheese. And you're just like, dude, wow, that's awesome. But it wasn't
genius.
like
That's genius. That's what I mean. I would never get there. And I mean, I'm not a chef, so that's all right. But it's amazing to hear even your thought process as you go through that. Because I'm like, man, yeah, I would never add blue cheese, and then I would just add even like the candied walnuts. I just have to be like, oh, you know what? We got some of these sitting over here. Maybe we'll sprinkle them all on top. See what happens. Like I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, you obviously had this kind of like progression as you created this thing because you knew what worked together.
Exactly.
So what are a couple things that people who love to cook maybe should try, like stretch themselves on? I don't know. I'm asking you this just sort of on the fly,
with,
but
with all of the seasonings out there, don't be afraid to season your food. Okay. So a little secret. This is at the smokehouse, at the Tavern at Trails End, and at the Tavern Trattoria. I have a seasoning that I call the Trinity. All right. It's equal parts kosher salt, a roasted garlic, granulated garlic, and then cafe ground black pepper. When I say put that on my Cheerios, it goes on everything. Everything gets seasoned. The pasta gets seasoned. The pasta water gets seasoned. So don't be afraid to season. One good thing about that seasoning is that it literally imparts everything. It's a base for everything. If you want to do blackening, if I do a homemade blackening seasoning, it has the Trinity in it. Because you have the garlic, you have the salt, you have the pepper. Yeah. That is the basis of all flavors.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna tell the public. Don't be afraid of seasoning.
Okay, that's a good one.
Jump on Amazon. You can play around all day long on different seasonings, and some stuff I'll buy just to try. Mm-hmm. There was a cayenne and orange, rub for a steak. Hated it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But you try it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that didn't work out like
just don't be afraid to play around with
it.
Too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I love playing with curries. You have the base of a curry seasoning and a base of a curry paste. And what, I wonder what, you got this nice pungent, a little bit of earthy, a little bit of spice. Let's add a little bit of, allspice to it. It just changes the profile of what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So just, again, it's like, But that's more than just grabbing a total random like eeny meeny miny mo thing out of the spice cabinet.
No, there's definitely a thought process that goes into it.
Yeah.
I love truffle oil. But some things it just doesn't go with. Mm-hmm. And some things it will kill because it is so overpowering.
What you went to culinary school, you learned like theory, right? Like things that work together and how to make certain things. Is there anything if a person, just average person, were to learn something like that, what is the thing that you're like, man, that was the most critical kind of foundational aspect of making good food? Was there something in particular?
So, culinary is derived mainly from the French. Auguste Escoffier was like one of the first documented chefs. So it was the first major chef to start documenting and creating, true blue recipe books as far as a teaching formula. So what I tell people, because I ask people all the time, well, do I want to go to culinary school? Do I not go to culinary school? Okay. I was way into, my career, before I went and got mine. I had a strong basis.
Right.
But like for people want to cook at home, learn the mother sauces. All right. So the mother sauce is the original birth of all French sauces. So say you have, Espanol, it's a sauce made from demi-glace. It's a very rich, what people would call it gravy. Okay. But there's like 13 derivative sauces that come off of this one sauce. So learn your mother sauces. And you can literally just go on the internet and type it in. What's a bechamel? Okay, so a bechamel is the mother of all cream sauces. Your Alfredo sauce, starts with bechamel. There's so many sauces that come off of this one.
Okay.
So learn the basics and then create from there.
All right, so learn the mother sauces. That's a good little nugget to take away. Like
yes, 100%.
Home cook education right there.
Look it up on the internet. Everything's on the internet nowadays.
So, okay, great. So that's maybe some like useful, helpful advice, because what I wanted to do is get a little bit inside your brain and
Don't do
the
that.
scary place.
It's scary, yes.
In there, yes. But and because as I've gotten to know you, what I want folks to see is that you have this ability to create and to see what things are going to go together and to not be just normal and standard.
Right.
With the things that you create. I mean, like I said, all the menus Smokehouse is barbecue, and
sure.
Barbecue is pretty straightforward,
yeah.
Right? But
you can only get so creative with it when it comes not barbecue anymore,
right? Yeah. So, but at Trattoria and Trails End, man, you look at the menu and you go, wow, this is not just like steak on the menu, right? Or whatever. It feels like every single menu item has.
There's
like
a thought,
John's,
has a purpose.
Yeah, plan and creativity kind of baked into it. And that's cool. I think it's cool that people get to see that a little bit when they go there. I think it's cool they get to meet you.
Right.
And that was what I want. Have you ever created some items that were just total stinkers? Where you like,
100%.
You're like, oh my gosh,
I tried this orange duck recipe one time and I overdid, I was tasting it as I go. I'm like, man, not enough orange. I'm zesting orange, and I'm squeezing more juice, and I'm zesting. And by the time it was done, it was horrid. So, yes, I've had some fails.
Okay, that's good to know, because for us normal folks out there.
I was 3.
You were 3?
I'm kidding.
I was like, all right, now I feel bad.
right.
Nice.
No. But cool. No, yeah, there's stuff out there that, just because you have a mind for it and intellectually have an idea of how this is going to turn out, there are a couple of times like, man, But the thing is, what I enjoy is that I can fix it.
Right.
Unless it's already pre-cooked and done and ruined. But a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, it needs more of this, less of this.
And you're always, in that way, you're always kind of discovering, exploring. That's what you're saying. You're never done, right? As learning how to,
it's never done.
Create.
Literally at night, if I have a menu coming up, my brain will not shut off. It's going. Yeah,
you've told me about sitting around the fire with a drink in the hand, sitting there late one night. I forget that maybe it was some recipe that you were like, oh, we should do this thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
it's no different. It's called culinary arts for a reason.
Right.
Because there is artistry that goes along with it.
Well,
it is an art to me. Not only, but it's one of the very few arts that uses all of your senses. How many jobs out there only use a couple of your senses? Cooking uses every single one of your senses. So it's a wholly immersive experience for me, being in the kitchen.
That's good.
Like, a chaotic kitchen is my paradise. Got tickets flying everywhere and, it's on. The adrenaline's rushing and you got, and I'm very strict. We got a minimum of a 30-minute ticket time. Like, go, go, go. Mise en place. I'm, talking to the chefs. You need this, you need this, you need it. Where is this? You need to put that pork chop on. Flip the pork chop. So it's an orchestration of controlled chaos. And it is the best drug in the entire world.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it. That
Yep.
stressed me out beyond belief. If folks want to meet, I mean, you kind of split your time between Trattoria and Trails End.
Yeah,
right?
more
They're kind of
at this point, I'm spending a lot of time at a trattoria.
Okay.
Just because it's new.
Yeah.
People, I still get new people at Trails End all the time, but I think I have a good foundation of what we are about.
Mhm.
So I don't feel the quote unquote need to have to be there every night.
Right.
And let me give another shout out, to Tavern at Trails End. Chef Corey Kinder is there and is my chef there. And what an amazing guy. So if I'm not there, that you have a qualified chef cooking the food, not only to my specifications, but he has his own creative realm
That's
that he
great.
does as well. And he's able to add his own twist to the menu.
That's nice.
So
that
if
can
you are
feel
there, if I'm not there, ask for Chef Corey to come out. He'll come out and shake your hand,
Oh,
tell you
cool.
what he's got going on. So
It's nice that you can feel like you can turn that over. And
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, it's not quote unquote passive income if the sweat's coming off your brow all the time. So it just got to the point to where I couldn't be at Trails End all the time because I had Trattoria.
Right.
But Trattoria is getting to that point to where I'll be able to start splitting my time. I can go hang out at Trails End, shake hands, kiss babies, and then,
Nice.
next day go
Yeah.
to, go to Trattoria.
Good.
So,
Well, I encourage folks to check. I mean, I send people there to Trails End and Trattoria, especially because those are really have always been very special dining experiences every time
No, thank
I've
you.
gone. So, and obviously Smokehouse, again, that's just like an obvious go-to in
Right.
Camden. So we'll just remind folks, if you don't want to cook, or you want a special night out, or you need to just be inspired,
Right.
Or maybe you even want to meet Chef John for awesome barbecue in Camdenton. It's
Tavern Smokehouse.
all right for unforgettable Italian in Lori. It's
Tavern Trattoria.
Trattoria, and for the coolest, maybe possibly oldest building at the
Yeah.
lake, and a dining experience that you just won't forget. It
As
is
the Tavern at Trails End.
Tavern at Trails End. John, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it was my pleasure.
Appreciate
man.
it. And that's our take on the lake. Thank y'all for listening. Stay anchored, stay curious, and we'll see you soon.